you mentioned as far as, kind of being more of like a tech-enabled kind of broker, in the very beginning versus kind of like a marketplace. So, could you like maybe share a little bit more about that and kind of like how it's evolved into more of like I would say like an AI kind of powered marketplace today as well?
I'll preface with, just having invested in a lot of companies myself and knowing a lot of founders. I want to try to be specific because I think that it's hard to lump these things together. I do think there's a different, like when people think of marketplaces, and look, we're backed by FJ Labs and FX, and marketplace investors have put a lot of literature, a lot of content. So we've debated and talked about these things at length, right? So what I would say is, I think traditionally when people hear the word marketplaces, they associate it with something like eBay or maybe Airbnb, where I can go online. There's so many options. I can just pick it, do it, and you're kind of on your merry way. And the marketplace is the platform that enables that has network effects, where it's scalable. The more you add on both sides of the marketplace, it gets more and more valuable. But then, we started in this era where there was this thing called B2B marketplaces, and people would call it, it was a catchy phrase, but it's very different because for a few reasons. The first reason is you're not going to a consumer who's just going to make a purchasing decision with 5 clicks online. You're dealing with a B2B customer, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is B2B is complex. Everyone has different needs. And so the way you're trying to lure in that customer on the B2B side means that there's going to be some complexity right at the tail end of like, how do I even sell this value prop? How do I get them to approve the budgets internally? So right there, it's already such a different process, even if everything else was the same. And what makes it even more complicated is when people talk about B2B marketplaces, they're basically saying, hey, there's this thing that companies need. There's maybe a fragmented or large supply base, and there's this entity called the B2B marketplace that's intermediating and helping them find that supply, right? Sometimes that supply is not super fragmented. I'm trying to think, maybe like in insurance, maybe there's 10 carriers, but then there's companies, there's industries like freight and trucking where there's literally over 1 million trucking companies in the US, right? So it is really fragmented, and you could create marketplace dynamics. The reason that you don't, or historically haven't, is because there's so much complexity and manual work involved in doing the work for the customer. Okay, I'll help you find the truck, negotiate with the trucker, onboard them, make sure they're not fraudulent. Then I have to make sure that they switch on their tracking. Then I have to give you that tracking. Then I have to, the trucker said they'd charge us $1,000, but then they're saying that you made them wait 3 hours. So there's another $50. And so now I have to like redo the whole invoice because like that's not the number we approved. And so B2B marketplace is a magical term that I think possibly hides a lot of the complexity and the differences between a traditional consumer marketplace, right? And so I would say that you almost have to, if you want to innovate on processes like those, you almost have to start as a tech-enabled broker, or you see that there's enough of these brokers and you sell tools to them, which people have done in our industry as well. We decided to be more like a tech-enabled broker. And what I told Mike before this session is, you're catching me in a moment where it's been like 2 months where I finally feel like we are a marketplace, because it's taken us so long to automate every little thing I just told you guys, where now I'm literally, I can't show this because there's customer data, but there's a screen and we just have bids coming in, AI agents are negotiating them, tracking is done automatically. It feels like magic, and it finally does feel more like a marketplace. But what we offer to customers hasn't changed. They work with us because we offer a wide selection of trucking companies they could work with. They rely on us to do the vetting, the negotiating, the procuring. They rely on us for tracking and visibility. And I think what AI has done is just enabled the possibility for these things to get automated where they didn't feel possible a few years ago. So maybe I'll close by saying, maybe it's possible, at least we're feeling it's possible, we're seeing it, that you can get some of those exciting scalability and marketplace dynamics from consumer marketplaces 10, 15, 20 years ago, maybe in B2B, but it's extremely difficult. It's not been easy. It's very painful to do all this like operating and automating and change management. But today, from where I'm sitting, it finally feels real, right?